The vanishing of Olivia Turner. The rain came down in sheets, slashing against the windshield like 1,000 tiny knives. Olivia Turner's car skidded on the slick road, her heart pounding in her chest. She'd been driving for over an hour, trying to outrun the storm, but something felt off. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. The headlights behind her were too close, too constant. Her pulse quickened as she glanced in the rearview mirror, but there was no sign of a car. Then, without warning, her car jolted to a stop. The engine sputtered and died. Her breath hitched, and she gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. She tried to restart the engine, but it wouldn't budge. Silence swallowed her whole. No traffic, no sound from the outside world, only the sound of her own panicked breathing. Olivia looked around the dark, empty road. Her phone was dead, and she had no choice but to walk. But as she opened the car door and stepped out, she froze. A shadow moved in the distance, just beyond the reach of her headlights. A figure, tall and lean, standing in the rain. Her stomach churned with fear. She tried to run back to the car, but her feet felt heavy, as though something was holding her back. Before she could make a move, the figure stepped forward, its face obscured by the rain. Then everything went black. When Olivia Turner was found the next morning, it wasn't where anyone expected. She was discovered 2 miles from the spot where her car had broken down, lying unconscious in a ditch. But when she woke up in the hospital, her memory was fuzzy, and her story didn't quite add up. She told the police she remembered someone chasing her, someone who had tried to grab her, but she couldn't describe the figure. Not a single detail. Her clothes were wet and muddy, but her car had been found untouched. There were no signs of a struggle, no trace of the mysterious person she claimed to have seen. It was as though she had simply wandered off into the storm and then passed out. The police were skeptical. They had questions, too many questions. Olivia's life seemed perfect on the surface. She had a successful career, a supportive boyfriend, and a close-knit family. But there was something about her story that didn't sit right. The lack of physical evidence, the fuzzy memory, everything pointed to a possible fabrication. Still, there was one thing they couldn't ignore. Olivia was missing for 12 hours, and nobody knew where she had been. Days passed without any further developments. Olivia stayed at her parents' house, recovering from her ordeal, but she wasn't the same. She became quiet, withdrawn, her eyes constantly scanning the shadows. She had nightmares, waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for air. But it wasn't just the trauma that seemed to have changed her. There was a growing sense of unease in the house, a feeling that something was wrong, that something wasn't adding up. One evening, as Olivia sat alone in her room, she received a text. It was from an unknown number, and the message was simple: "I know what you did." Her heart stopped. She had no idea who could be sending the message or what it meant, but it sent a chill down her spine. She showed the text to her boyfriend, James, but he dismissed it. "It's probably just someone messing with you," he said, trying to reassure her. But Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that someone knew something she didn't. The next day, as the storm clouds began to gather again, Olivia's worst fears were realized. James was gone. His car was missing, and he hadn't been heard from in hours. Olivia panicked, calling the police and telling them everything. She told them about the text, the fear, the strange sensation that someone was watching her. But they couldn't find James. It wasn't until the next morning that the body was discovered. James was found in a small clearing in the woods, his body badly bruised and his throat slashed. It was clear he had been tortured, but there was something strange about the crime scene, something that didn't make sense. Olivia's fingerprints were all over the area. The police had no choice but to arrest her, but as they took her into custody, they found something else. Hidden in the back of Olivia's closet was a small notebook. Inside, written in a shaky hand, were detailed accounts of her life, her relationships, and her secret. A secret she had been hiding for years. Olivia wasn't the victim. She was the killer. The twist came when they discovered the shocking truth. Olivia had been secretly tormenting James for months, manipulating him into believing he was the one in danger. The texts, the mysterious figure in the rain, everything was part of her plan. She had staged the entire event, using her own memory loss as a cover. James had been trying to help her, to get her out of the mess she had created, but Olivia had turned on him when he started to get too close to the truth. In the end, Olivia wasn't the helpless woman on the side of the road. She was a cold, calculating killer who had orchestrated a web of lies to cover her tracks. And when the truth came to light, it was more terrifying than anyone could have imagined.